Alberta Primetime with Michael Higgins.
Welcome to Alberta Primetime. Ahead tonight, our politics panel on the province stepping in to review Calgary's water woes. But first, looking for movement.
This sets the stage for these important discussions on a wide range of issues where we can be strategic partners.
The message the Carney government is taking into trade talks on Chinese soil, an effort to rebuild a strained relationship, and where Canadian agriculture producers are concerned, the restoration of market access through removal of punishing tariffs. And joining us now, Harpe. He chairs both the Canadian Canola Growers Association and the Alberta Canola Producers Commission, and of course, producer in the Grand Prairie region, Mr. Harpe. Good to see you again, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
All right. The talks have started. The countdown is on to the remainder of what's left of the trade delegation trip. How confident are you the Carney-led delegation will have some degree of success in getting those tariffs dropped?
Well, obviously we've been in discussions with the government for over a year now, but more importantly, for ever since September when we did meet with the Prime Minister, have been in close contact and still relatively positive. We do get this is behind closed doors. This is in Beijing, so things do happen, but we're still really positive.
What's driving that level of confidence?
It gets back to some of the discussions we've been having, and that and even with the Prime Minister in September, it gets back to wondering what our concerns is and what he can do to help. Looking forward on conversations leading up to this week have been positive. Obviously, we don't know what is happening, but it sounds like in the background that I think there is movement, and I'm looking forward to good news tomorrow.
In some of the footage coming out of Beijing, you see Scott Moe sitting right next to Mark Carney. What kind of signal do you take from Saskatchewan's premier's involvement in this trade delegation? He's certainly been a proponent for your industry.
Oh, absolutely. I have to give kudos to Premier Moe. He's been with us there since I met with him in August, and he has really been pushing and really has been behind the canola industry, and I really appreciate that. But it was really encouraging when we found out that he flew out last week to be with the Prime Minister and the delegation, and I take it that actually is a very good sign also.
You're an Alberta producer. Surprised there wasn't Alberta government representation included, be that the Premier or a member of Cabinet?
I would have really appreciated somebody from Alberta being there, but at the same time, I do understand that Premier Moe, canola exports for Saskatchewan are basically almost, and if they're not at the top of what they export, it gets back to, there is obviously in Alberta, there is probably some more focus on energy. I have to admit, I really wish there would probably be more focus on agriculture. We're actually number 2 for exports, and it would have been really nice to have somebody there on the Canadian delegation from Alberta.
On some of those trade points, how much leverage do you think the Carney government is able to bring to the discussions?
Well, this is going to be interesting, and you really don't know. And I know I've been asked probably more than once, what do you want out of these negotiations, and what do you think should be traded? And I do get international trade is complex, and it gets back to all we are asking for is to get the canola market or canola flowing again. How you do it, that's up to the negotiators, and that ultimately up to the Prime Minister.
On that point of how you do it, Ontario, as most of us know, firmly against removal of the tariff on Chinese EVs. What would warrant dropping maybe that measure in favor of easing the restrictions on Canadian canola? How would you defend that? Maybe in a conversation across the table from Doug Ford.
It would be really interesting. I wouldn't mind sitting down with Premier Ford and having a discussion with that. At the same time, to me, it all has to be about balance. And at the same time, we are not, it seems like agriculture, and particularly canola, this is the second time in 6 years that China has used canola as a wedge point or a negotiating point. And you know what? It gets back at, I guess we're getting tired of it. It seems like we're getting hit on the chin. we've lost between $2 to $4 billion of sales right now because of what's happening. It's huge. And the thing is, it gets back to Canadian canola is grown across Canada, practically every province. So it's a huge market, and it's this is just not Alberta. This isn't Saskatchewan. This isn't Western Canada. This is Canadian wide. So we really need to look at how we are doing things.
If it is, the discussions are successful, and as we mentioned off the clock, the clock is ticking. If the Chinese tariffs are dropped, how quickly do you see market access being restored?
It's going to be, it'll take a while, but I think what we will see is an immediate reaction in the price because the price has dropped substantially, and we are going to, every time we get some news that things may be changing, you actually see the price change. And I think we will see fairly quickly a price change, and after that, which will be followed by sales into China.
Maybe as one last quick question for you, Mr. Harpe. We've spoken before about the push for boosting the domestic marketplace. Maybe where do things stand in dealings with the federal government on, say, a made-in-Canada biofuel sector? Has there been progress in that regard?
Oh, absolutely. We have been discussing. One of the things we did do when we met with the prime ministers, we did ask for a working group to, go forward with this, because it gets back to, we're in the situation now. We don't need to see this again. So actually, we did meet before Christmas, and out of that, we actually asked for a biofuel subcommittee, so to speak. But basically, they're taking it seriously. That subcommittee is actually already met, so things are going forward. And even, in Alberta, right now, we have a 2% biofuel mandate. We've asked the Alberta government to please take that to 5%. Basically, it costs maybe a cent a liter at the very, very most, but not only would it make us look good in the world's eyes, but it would take a lot of canola, and it would help a lot.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for time. As always, appreciate your time, Mr. Harpe. Thank you kindly, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Andre Harpe chairs both the Canadian Canola Growers Association and the Alberta Canola Producers Commission, of course, a producer as well in the Grand Prairie region.